Today's video, I'll be going through my own Dynasty rookie drafts and how I navigated rookie draft season. I'm in 9 Dynasty leagues that recently had their rookie drafts. And I figure you guys might want to know how my drafts went, where I spent my picks, and what deals I ended up making, ultimately how the draft board ended up materializing. So it's time to put my money where my mouth is and show you guys exactly how I approached each league's draft. So make sure you stick around till the end so you guys can see how to navigate from both a rebuilding and a contending standpoint. And from an outside perspective, also being able to see some of the chaos that ensued when on the clock. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Like mentioned in the intro, I'm currently in 9 Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues who recently had their rookie drafts, each with their own unique set of rules, scoring, and types of league markets, as well as differences in my own roster builds between my contending and rebuilding teams in my portfolio, which you guys will see. So for formatting reasons, all vet acquisitions during the rookie draft are highlighted in red, and all rookie draft picks that I actually selected, along with the pick that I selected them with, will be in blue. So look no further than the first league for today's exercise, our Tone Setter Truthers League. So you guys can see on the screen right now, the Tone Setter Truthers League on that sheet. Tone Setter Truthers, 12-team PPR league with the Superflex, 0.5 tight end premium with a 6-point passing touchdown. You guys can see anchored by Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, AJ Dillon, Brian Robinson, etc. there as my main building blocks going into the draft, along with a boatload of picks that I ended up spending on vet acquisitions. Like you guys can see, Russell Wilson added in this draft, Travis Etienne added in this draft, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, DJ Moore, Mike Williams, all of that fun stuff on the screen. But how did I get these players? And you guys will see right now the trades I ended up making with the overload of picks I had going into the draft that ultimately form a roster that I do believe can compete in 2023. So you guys can see right now, I ended up sending the 104 and the 204 in exchange for Chris Olave and Mike Williams. So you guys can see based off the draft board, 104 ended up materializing into CJ Stroud. 204 ended up materializing into Jonathan Mingo. So on face value, you're looking at CJ Stroud and Jonathan Mingo in exchange for Chris Olave and Mike Williams. Given that I'm already strong from a quarterback equity standpoint with Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson currently on the roster, needing some flex players, I think getting a young stud, top 10 overall dynasty wide receiver in Chris Olave, along with a solid contributing wide receiver 3 in Mike Williams, was a great move to make from my squad. Next deal, 111 and 310 in exchange for DJ Moore. 111 there, I could have easily just taken Zay Flowers and been comfortable with that. But because I want to try to compete, because I think DJ Moore does more for me in my intermediate window, I was fine with cashing out on Zay Flowers to go out and get DJ Moore. Next deal ended up trading away the 103 and the 303 in exchange for Garrett Wilson and the 206, which I ended up using the 206 to go and move later on. You guys will see in a later deal. So in terms of this deal, obviously face value, Garrett Wilson versus Anthony Richardson. You can argue that either way, in my opinion, but I would probably slightly prefer Anthony Richardson if I was starting a startup. Hence the little bit of the difference there, the buffer between the 303 and the 206. In my situation, like I said, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts already on the roster. Same philosophy, like I said, with the 104 pick. Just cashing in on some young stud wide receiver talent. Garrett Wilson's currently my wide receiver 5 in Dynasty. Being able to get him in the pick upgrade was enough for me to move off of Anthony Richardson. Next deal here, you guys can see on the screen, I ended up flipping the 203 and the 208 in exchange for Russell Wilson and the 305. On face value, I might have overpaid a little bit here because I would say Russell Wilson's probably worth, the 201, 112 type of area. And obviously still here, I'm giving that pick upgrade from the 305 to the 208. But because I want to try to compete with this team, because I think Russell Wilson's that fine contending quarterback 3 buy for this team, I was fine paying this price. Still ended up using that 305 in a trade to get a player that I really wanted to add to my team. So overall, I would argue that the 203 and the 208 side probably won on face value, but I like what Russell Wilson does in helping advance my contending window in 2023. Next deal, pretty similar situation. I do actually think that face value leans on the opposite side here, but for me, getting Travis Etienne, because I'm super strong at receiver, quarterback, and now tight end, I feel like getting that one anchor running back on my team to potentially put me, like I said, in that contending window was worth it for me. So overall, I probably would have only, in a realistic, straight up scenario, given up the 108 and Wandale or the 108 and 206 to get Travis Etienne. But at this point, I have to throw in Wandale to get it done. So be it. Go out, get Travis Etienne for my team. like I said, try to compete. And then finally, the 305 and the 403 in exchange for the 211. Saw Tank Bigsby on the board, day 2 running back. Really one of the more valuable RB2s in fantasy, in my opinion. Obviously, we expect Travis Etienne, who oddly enough I just traded for in this scenario, to be the main guy there. But I do think even if I didn't have Travis Etienne, that's going to be a good offense. Tank Bigsby was a solid prospect, gets that day 2 capital. I think that's one of the better landing spots of this entire cycle. So getting that type of profile at 211 was great in my opinion. So overall, in terms of my rookie draft, you guys kind of see how the boards ultimately unfolded. But 107, I ended up keeping out of the initial picks I had. I ended up going out and selecting Jordan Addison. Michael Mayer was my pick at the 201. And finally, closing off the Tone Setter Truthers draft for me was Tank Bigsby at the 211. So very, very happy with this team. Ended up turning it, in my opinion, from a rebuilder to a contender within a rookie draft cycle. So very happy with what I was able to net from these assets. So next team, FSC Listener League Dyno. We have a 12-team Superflex PPR league with a 4-point passing touchdown. And this is probably the team that I am in the best situation as a whole, because from top to bottom, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and tight ends, you guys will see very, very strong team. So a quarterback headlined by Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Deshaun Watson there. Need I say more? Running backs, you can see them on the screen, but absolutely loaded to the brim there. Wide receivers built a foundation around Jamar Chase and Drake London and was able to add to them in this rookie draft, like you'll see. And then at tight end, I do have Greg Dulcich, Darren Waller, and Trey McBride. So little unproven there, but ultimately I feel like I can make a move in season if I notice the tight end points are not coming, given the depth I have at my flex position. So in terms of this league, the trades that I made were very, very interesting, because you guys often hear me talking about, accumulating draft assets, building that bank. But like you kind of see here, this is a full win now type of build from yours truly, from Danny. So how did I attack this draft? Well, the first trade, I ended up sending away the 108, the 301, and the 305 to Corey in exchange for Saquon Barkley. Pretty simple for me. I already built up a ton of accumulated value on this team. It's time to materialize that into fantasy points and end up getting some return on investment. So I like cashing in on Saquon Barkley at that point. He's trying to retool. I'm trying to contend. We made ends meet and ended up coming up with this package. So next trade, similar situation. The guy was not competing. I'm very, very high on Jerry Jeudy, and I was willing to pay the price here. 2024 first, which I project to be late, and 2024 second, which I project to be late. End up going and purchasing myself a Brandon Cooks, who, in my opinion, could be the number 2 weapon on a top 5 level offense. You guys see the jerseys in the background. I am all in on this Dallas Cowboys offense, having that nice established wide receiver 2 added in Brandon Cooks, which he has showed every single stop he's been in his career. So I think for the value, him versus a 2024 second, you probably lean the second on face value, but I don't think he's too far off. And then when you combine that with Jerry Jeudy, who's a top 20 overall dynasty wide receiver for me, I was more than willing to pay the price for this deal. Next trade, I ended up sending away the 104 and a 2024 fourth for the 105 and the 202. And the reasoning here is pretty simple. People might look at this at face value and say, well, oh my God, you moved down one pick, ended up moving up your fourth to a 202. Absolutely, I agree with you. I love the value I got on this side. But from the other person's perspective, the 104 ended up being CJ Stroud. Having that there, he wasn't really competing for this year, wanted to retool for next year, wanted to secure that young quarterback asset. And I wasn't budging. I said, hey, listen, I am going to take CJ Stroud at the 104 here. He is, in my opinion, the next best value. If you want to come for the quarterback, pay me a little premium and we'll be able to get it done. So for me personally here, I end up getting from the 105 and the 202, Jackson Smith and Jigba and Devon A-Chain. He ends up getting his young franchise quarterback with CJ Stroud. So ultimately here, I like the value I got, but I do think it's a very good win-win for each side. And finally, I was able to send my 305 and a 2024 3 for the 301, which I used to select Tajay Spears. On face value, I probably overpaid a little bit, but in this case, I'm more than fine going out and getting a day 2 capital, high implied handcuff running back with Tajay Spears. And that was the price I was willing to pay. So for me personally, I end up going into this season now with what I believe to be the strongest team in the league, and a team that should be able to net me a championship if I play my cards right in season. Next league here, we got the Mickey Mouse Analyst League. So for the first 2 leagues, that's league with you guys. That's league with FSC subscribers. This Mickey Mouse Analyst League is actually with a bunch of your fantasy analysts over on Twitter. We're talking about Ron Stewart, Jacob Sanderson, Dynasty IM, Wiser Fantasy, all of those highly intelligent, highly experienced Dynasty analysts we're playing with in this league, a 12-team Superflex league with PPR, 0.5 tight end premium, and a 6-point passing touchdown format. So in terms of my main building blocks, out of the startup, I ended up collecting as many 2024 first round picks as I possibly could. People were more vigilant in trading their 2023 picks. So I attacked that 2024 draft, built up 5 first round picks in that draft, along with having that stable core now of Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, Drake London, etc. there. So definitely a team that I'm going to be punting in 2023, but a team that by 2024, I expect to have a stranglehold on this league. So in terms of the trades I ended up making in draft, basically let's combine these two trades because that's pretty much what the net is. So if we look at it, obviously I ended up trading later on in the second deal, the 104 and the mid second for the 103. So if I'm rationalizing this, the 104 to the run 3, because I gave up that mid second, let's just take away the 207 off of the first deal I made, and let's make the 104 the 103. So in theory, I ended up shipping Pat Freiermuth and the 102, which ended up being Anthony Richardson, in exchange for Brandon Ayuk and the 103. Reasoning is pretty simple for me, in my opinion. Brandon Ayuk, I would prefer to Pat Freiermuth if I was in a startup setting. Not to mention, with me having the 202 and knowing intrinsically that Dalton Kincaid or Michael Mayer would most likely be the pick if they fell, I was more than comfortable with giving Pat Freiermuth, knowing that I could replace him later on with one of those high-end prospects. And then, of course, from the 102 to the 103 drop, I love both Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young, but Bryce Young is currently my quarterback 1. So I basically get the player I probably would have preferred anyways at the 102, end up getting a little bit of value going from Pat Freiermuth to Brandon Ayuk and still getting him at the 103. So happy with the net of those two deals. But I'm not going to lie, this third trade, I absolutely hate from my standpoint. Ended up sending Baker Mayfield for the 308. The reason being is when I saw my notifications, I noticed that Hendon Hooker was slipping in this draft. So I assumed when I made this trade and sent Baker Mayfield that it was actually for Hendon Hooker because I didn't notice the notification. I end up making the trade. He's off the board. You guys would see on that draft board. End up in a situation where I'm stumped who to pick. I end up going with Cedric Tillman, but this is just a slide on my part. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. You have to make sure you are fully attentive and fully focused when you're making trades. And on this one, I will say I wasn't fully focused. If this was Hendon Hooker and I shipped Baker Mayfield for Hendon Hooker, given the complexion of my team not fully competing in 2023, that would have been more than fine, and I would have loved my side there. But unfortunately for me, Hendon Hooker ended up having to settle because I was too lazy to actually check the draft board prior to making this deal. So don't make that mistake. In terms of the rookie draft, though, like I kind of said, Bryce Young was my pick at the 103. 202, I ended up selecting Michael Mayer. 207, Josh Downs ends up falling to me. And then at the 308, I end up selecting Cedric Tillman. Let's go on to the next team and the fourth team of the video, and that's going to be from the No Flockin League. We have over from our FSC Flock Fantasy members, a 12-team Superflex League with full PPR, 6-point passing touchdowns, and a 0.5 tight end premium. So in terms of this league, you guys can see that I drafted this team as a heavy win now team out of the startup. Hurts, Jackson, McCaffrey, Swift, Adams, Judy, Mike Williams, George Kittle. I am looking to win the championship in year 1. Year 1 in the startup, year 1 will be in my reign for fantasy football champion in this league. But in terms of this league, I didn't really have many picks to work with. But the only real pick that I had in terms of relevance in this rookie draft ended up being the 212, which I shipped along with my 2024 fourth to go out and secure Elijah Mitchell. Again, I'm competing. Elijah Mitchell is going to have more utility in my lineup this year than the 212 will. So I was more than fine with making this trade. Didn't even realize at the time I ended up securing Christian McCaffrey's handcuff, but I just like the outlook of Elijah Mitchell as a whole on that San Francisco 49ers team. So in terms of the rookie draft, I'll show up for a quick second if you guys are interested in seeing how the draft materialized, but obviously for your boy, didn't end up making my picks on my own right, but Bijan, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, JSN, etc. there. So let's go on to the fifth team, and that's going to be from Too Lazy to Set Lineups, a 12-team PPR best ball league with a 4-point passing touchdown. By the way, super flex if I didn't mention that already, but overall, pretty deep roster, start 11 league in the best ball format. So you want as many high producing players as you possibly can. Obviously, with the best ball format, you don't need to set your lineup every week. And obviously, with a much larger starting team, 11-man starting roster, you're going to need a bunch of high upside producers on your team. So for me personally, if you go through this team, I feel like I have that in spades. And ultimately, I do believe I am the championship favorite in this league. Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, and Ryan Tannehill heading my quarterback position. At running back, Breece Hall, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Dameon Pierce, Brian Robinson, etc. there. Wide receiver, two big acquisitions, which you guys will see in a second, but I ended up securing CeeDee Lamb and Calvin Ridley as my main wide receiver building blocks on this team, along with at tight end, very strong there with Mark Andrews, David Njoku, and Hayden Hurst. So in terms of the trades, I'll quickly go through them and then show you the draft that ended up materializing. But earlier in this offseason, Corey was trying to tear it all down, had some vet players that were available, and I was willing to leverage some of my future picks to build up that depth, build up as many high upside players in my dynasty roster, obviously with the best ball format. I just want guys that can have some spike weeks. So for me personally, yeah, 2025 1, 2025 2, and 2024 3, a lot of picks to be able to deal. But getting the potential ceilings of Russell Wilson, Calvin Ridley, and Damon Harris in my lineup meant a lot for me. And not to mention, I ended up using Russell Wilson to upgrade DK Metcalf into CeeDee Lamb. So for me personally, if I'm substituting this out right now, if you were to put in DK Metcalf on that send side and you were to put CeeDee Lamb on that receive side, more than fine with the output I got from those deals. So overall, very happy with this team. Very happy with ultimately what I was able to do in the rookie draft, despite not making any rookie draft picks, which you guys will see. So I'll show the board quickly so you guys have an idea of how the rookie drafts went. Corey went Bijan at the 101. 102 went Anthony Richardson. 103 Bryce Young. 104 CJ Stroud. 105 Jahmyr Gibbs. 106 Jackson Smith and Jigba. And you see the rest of the draft on the screen. But let's go on to the number 6 league, and that's going to be from the Ladster League Best Ball, a 12-team Superflex PPR league with obviously the best ball roster settings, 0.5 tight end premium with a 4-point passing touchdown. So in terms of the team, quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Jared Goff, very set at that position. Running backs, as you guys can see with all that blue, completely added to it in the rookie draft. Wide receivers mainly built with CeeDee Lamb, Calvin Ridley, etc. there. And that tight end, I got the gold standard himself, Kyle Pitts. So in terms of the rookie draft, I ended up sending in my first trade a 2024 mid to late first round pick and a 2025 late second to go out and secure Quentin Johnson at the 108. The reason being with this team, I actually ended up trading my 2024 first round pick in the startup to go and trade back for my 2023 first round pick, which you guys can see ended up being Bijan Robinson. So thankfully I made that trade. I ended up trading my 2024 1 and 2 to go and secure my 2023 1. And it paid off in spades with me being able to fully tank out for Bijan Robinson. So overall, because I don't have my 2024 first round pick, the reason why I want to go out and secure Quentin Johnson is because I want more players to be able to produce points so that my pick isn't as low in the standings as it can. Because as good as it was going out and re-securing my 2023 first overall pick and getting Bijan Robinson to this team, if that 2024 one ended up being the 101 and it was Caleb Williams, I would be pretty sick. So I ended up making this move, getting another contributing player. Same type of idea with this next move. End up trading a mid-projected 2024 2 and 3. And ended up securing the 208 and the 212 to get more dart throws that can contribute to my lineup. So overall, very happy with the net here. You guys can see in terms of the rookie draft, had an absolute haul in this league. Bijan Robinson at the 101, Quentin Johnson at the 108, 111 ended up securing Zach Charbonnet. And then at the 208, 209, and 212, secured Roshan Johnson, Sam Laporta, and Jaden Reed. So overall, really like where I'm at in this spot. 1 year punted out of the startup in this best ball format. And I do think maybe in season, if I want to buy a running back or two, I can do that. I could buy a couple building blocks. I can do that. But even if I decided to wait, having those 4 first-round picks in 2024 is an absolute sight to see with the foundation I have already built on this team. So super excited where this team can take me, and I do think within the next couple years, I'm expecting to win a championship. So let's go on to the next team, and that's going to be from the STMV Newman Dynasty League, a 12-team half PPR Superflex League with a 0.5 tight end premium and 4-point passing touchdown. So you guys can see the team on the screen, May building blocks, Lamar Jackson, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, Darren Waller there. Pretty easy to say that this is definitely a win now type of build from your boy, especially considering I don't have any picks until 2025. And this is the reason why we ended up seeing the trades I made here. Sent Trey Lance and the 111 in exchange for Ryan Tannehill, Michael Thomas, Calvin Ridley, Ramondre Stevenson, and the 210. So overall, it really hurt my core to trade Trey Lance in this situation. But if we're looking at it objectively, I was able to get Ryan Tannehill to really play that quarterback 3 role on this team, obviously with Lamar and Derek Carr already set, and end up getting some really good flex talent that can help me secure a championship this year. So while it sucked losing that quarterback upside that Trey Lance represents, along with the 111, which is still a valuable pick, I do feel like I did a very good job at netting a bunch of win now assets that can help me win the championship in 2023. And similar idea to this next deal, traded away the 210 2024 third and the 2024 fourth to go out and secure Miles Sanders. So overall, I really like what I was able to do, adding a bunch of vet flex talent players that can help me try and win a championship like I've mentioned. So you guys always hear me talking about, 1-year punting, building your draft capital. And I do have, like you guys have seen, a ton of teams with that complexion. But this is kind of what it looks like when I try to go that contending route. And I do think this team has a very strong chance to win the championship. So, and overall, even though I didn't make any draft picks, this is one of the leagues that actually had a different type of looking rookie draft. So you guys can see typical top 3 we've seen in most circumstances with Bijan Robinson, Anthony Richardson, and Bryce Young going 1, 2, 3. But we do see CJ Stroud falling to the 6 in this league. JSN and Jahmyr Gibbs end up going above him. So definitely interesting there. The whole board listed on the screen there. Dalton Kincaid, maybe a little bit of surprise. A couple of those second round picks, maybe in different spots than you're used to. But this is more of a home league type of setting. The first 6 drafts I've mentioned were either an analyst or subscriber league, which you guys are either following our content or you guys are making your own content if you're an analyst in your own right. So this league's a little bit more of a different dynamic, like I've mentioned, with that home league atmosphere. And you guys can see, based off the draft board, that it does indeed have more of that home league type of atmosphere. But let's go on to the next team, and that's going to be from 905 Dynasty, another home league team, a 10-team Superflex half PPR league with a 0.5 tight end premium and 4-point passing touchdowns. So you guys can see the team on the screen right now. Very weak at running back. I'll just preface it by saying this right now. This is one of the more inactive leagues as a whole. 10-team league. Some people are very lackadaisical when it comes to checking their inbox offers. So I'm sure you guys are in a couple leagues like this. It's very frustrating at times to try to get deals done when people don't even look at their phones for 5 days straight, a week straight. Don't really focus on fantasy realistically from a training perspective to once the season starts. So it is a little bit frustrating, but I do think as a whole, I built out a strong structure to this team. So I do have as my main building blocks Dak Prescott, a very studly wide receiver core, end up securing TJ Hawkinson, which you guys will see in a second, along with 4 2024 first round picks and 4 2024 second round picks. So my idea there is hopefully I can build out my running back core and maybe add one more quarterback in this stretch to truly compete in this league. So overall, you guys can see some of the trades I made. End up sending away the 110 and the 2025 third round pick to go and secure TJ Hawkinson. Like I kind of said, I wanted that secure tight end. Have my wide receivers and my tight end set right now. And the 110 was actually used on Dalton Kincaid. So for me personally, once I contextualize it, am I willing to pay a third on top of Kincaid to go and secure TJ Hawkinson? I was more than willing to pay that price. And then this next deal, traded away the 201, the 208, and the 209 for a mid to late projected 2024 first round pick. Again, this is a 10-man league. So if that first round pick ends up being in the middle range, we're talking maybe the 105 to the 108 type of range, depending on if he makes the playoffs, maybe makes some noise. I'm more than comfortable making this deal. Obviously, there's a little bit of downside risk. If this ends up being the 110, so be it. I probably overpaid a little bit from a base value standpoint. But given the potential upside I can get and maybe getting a quarterback asset with that pick, maybe getting a running back asset with that pick, that trading away the 201, 208, and 209 this year when I'm really not in a position to truly compete quite yet, I was more than fine paying that price. So overall, my 2 picks in this draft, Quentin Johnson and Jordan Addison, and like you kind of saw, ended up trading out of my other picks. So very happy with that haul. Obviously, I have an overload of wide receivers on this team right now, going about 7 or 8 deep at the wide receiver spot. Definitely going to look to see if I can package maybe 2 of those guys plus a pick and see if I can go out and secure a stud quarterback with those assets. So let's go on to the next team, the final one of the video, and that's going to be from Alcoholics Anonymous. So this is a 10-team full PPR league with a 4-point passing touchdown, start 9 type of format. This is a team I actually co-rostered with a friend of mine, Flet. So if you're watching this, hopefully you enjoy this breakdown. But basically, quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Daniel Jones, Trey Lance, Ryan Tannehill, etc. there. Running backs, you can see basically overhauled it in the draft class, which you'll see in a second. Wide receivers, absolutely loaded to the rim. Amon St. Brown, T. Higgins, DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk, Traylon Burks, etc. there. Tight end end up, like you'll see in a second, trading for the gold standard himself. So overall, very happy, very successful rookie draft, which I will show you the trades right now. So the first trade here, I ended up sending away Greg Dulcich, the 103 and the 202, to go out and secure Kyle Pitts, J.K. Dobbins in the 2025 seconds. For ease sake, in my opinion, the Kyle Pitts and the 103, while I would prefer the 103 at face value, I do think they're a similar tier of asset. So I was fine making that move, especially when you consider that the other two assets in this deal, Greg Dulcich in the 202 for Dobbins in the 2025 second, I like acquiring from our team builds perspective. So for us, we needed a running back. We wanted to upgrade into a long-term stud tight end, and we're already set at quarterback. So this was the net of the moves, end up making a team that, in my opinion, has a much more balanced roster than it had going into the draft. And then finally, somebody was willing to send us a 2025 third straight up for the 401 on the clock. Anytime I can upgrade around for waiting an extra year or two, I'm always going to do. So the 401, hopefully you get someone good there, but I'll just be banking on the value increase of the 2025 third in relation to that price I paid. So overall, very happy with the trades I made. In terms of the rookie draft itself, ended up securing Bijan Robinson at the 101, Devon Achane at the 201, Sam Laporta at the 301, and Luke Schoonmaker at the 501. So absolutely excited with that haul and expecting to be able to compete with this team by 2024, the latest. And honestly, expecting to compete with this team as soon as this year. Obviously, needs some to break right at the running back position. But I do think as a whole that this is a very strong roster that can contend if we play our cards right. So either way, hopefully you guys enjoyed me going through my rookie drafts. If you guys have any questions down below, feel free to leave them. I will try to get to as many as possible. And of course, if you guys have some input, you maybe would have made a different decision, or maybe you didn't like one of the trades, feel free to leave it down below. We love engaging with you guys and just talking some ball. So make sure you do that. And of course, on the road to 20,000 subscribers, we're currently at about 19.8 thousand. So if you're watching this right now and you are not subscribed to the channel, help us reach our goal of 20K. We're trying to do that by the end of the month. So if you guys can help contribute to that, that will mean a ton for myself and Corey. But with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your day and take care.